Hey, I'm Gina.
I'm Geoff.
And
We're hoping you're doing very well today
yeah,
or tonight. We have a time zone,
yeah,
enjoying this further into 2020.
yeah. It looks like we're gonna have a change in temperature and weather between now and next week. Yeah, going up in the 80s now.
This is perfect California. Hey, hello from Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's about 300 square feet above
Sea level. Yeah.
And Kobe's memorial is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So whenever you hear this,
He's already been buried.
he's already been buried. But the memorial is going to be huge. So
He and his daughter, sorry, has already been buried.
yeah,
So the memorial for them, yeah. Like you said, tomorrow.
absolutely.
You know, and yeah, the town is starting to quiet down a little bit, concentrating on other things. You know, but you know what I find interesting, Geoff? You know, every so often we do hear news from the Bahamas, and this latest news that came out about Head Knowles, the breakup of Head Knowles.
Okay, for those
It's like a nasty divorce now.
when Hurricane Dorian occurred after Head Knowles is a fundraising
It started off 4 years ago as a hurricane relief fundraiser that was started with a GoFundMe account. And apparently,
by two women.
by two women, right? One was named Leah Head. One is, sorry, not was, is. One is named Leah Head, and she's the organizer. Of
Yeah, I grew up with Leah. She always had that sense of how to
Business.
utilize social media and factoring things together. She had a lot of connections, Bahamas and the U.S.
Yeah, and
And
then
the other one, we don't know.
the other partner, Gina Knowles, we don't know her.
Yeah, we don't know her.
But apparently she's known.
She's suing Leah,
Yeah.
supposedly, and Leah's moved back to the U.S.
Leah had moved back to the U.S. way before we did. And, you know, I guess in between when Chrissy Love moved back and we moved back, Leah moved. And then now we're seeing that her partner's ready to sue her, you know, for $400,000, which Leah says that it's already accounted for. The State Department has accounted for all of that.
And there is a lawsuit in the U.S. courts.
Yeah, Gina Knowles is bringing a lawsuit in the U.S. courts. You know, with a 300 page
337-page document.
affidavit.
Affidavit.
The affidavit is 337 pages long. So you can imagine
Exactly.
what is in that, right?
Yeah.
And you know,
Sounds like a book to me.
yeah, it does. And
A novel.
And if you have to write a 337-page affidavit, obviously you were not in charge.
There you
All right.
go.
So, you know, for you to question it now, I don't see.
Yeah.
With the
something ain't
something's not right.
something ain't right. You know.
What you need the $400,000 for?
Leah left the group a long time.
Because she saw that there was skullduggery going on.
There was something, a cloud and something. So she left, and then now, after time has passed, it seems like
Long time.
Yeah, her former partner is now going after. You know, it's almost kind of like you know, having to tell someone that, you know, the word royal ain't yours.
Yeah. You know, it's like no one owns the word royal.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Boy, that is just, you just take it to another level.
You know,
You
yeah.
know, you forget owning the paper that it's written on.
Yeah.
I own the word and the paper.
Exactly. Who could claim that? Who could claim that they own the word?
What's so bold about it?
And you know, is it patented? We need to understand that, you know?
Yes, that this is the only royal can only be used and applied to one person.
It can only be applied to one person. See, you know what, Geoff? You know what? I'm glad that you brought this up because you remember when I told you back in October 2017, I was sent to I was on assignment with the Commonwealth Law Ministers meeting, right? So it was like something like 56 attorney generals from all over the Commonwealth, from representing 56 different countries, all meeting in the Bahamas at Baha Mar, in the Baha Mar Convention Center, right, for a week to discuss the way forward on how to. It was how they were going to organize their legal system, so that the different attorney generals around the world can all communicate with each other. They were
amongst the Commonwealth.
Amongst the Commonwealth.
Commonwealth countries.
Right, and they were building a platform. It's like an internet platform. They were figuring out how they were going to build an internet platform for all of these 56 countries to communicate.
Listen, folks,
and send legal information.
This all sounds very interesting, you know. At this point, that the Commonwealth countries starting to do all of these kinds of things. These are like the poor and most corrupt.
Exactly.
In many of the regions.
The poorest corrupt countries all coming together to figure out how they're gonna share legal information with one another. Like, in other words, because the Queen has courts all over the world, right? And she has privy councils all over the world. So those lawyers, when
that would be equivalent to the Supreme Court here, the Privy Council, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
It's the Queen's Council,
and
and she has a set of lawyers that have been chosen to fight for the crown. Like for capital murder cases, capital punishment cases, and high level, what we would call federal cases. That's what the Queen's Council. That's what they deal with. High level cases, particularly in the Commonwealth. But anyway, my question to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, who was at the time, her name was Baroness Scotland. And I got to interview her. And the one question I asked her, I said, okay, you guys have decided the Commonwealth has now decided to create a legal platform for 56 countries to talk with each other. That's great. But have you established a constitution? Have you, or are you just going to operate as a confederacy of different countries? And she got quiet for a second. She said, she goes, you have to understand how the Commonwealth works. And I said, okay, now this is the time to find out, because I said, the importance of a constitution is that you have to know how to settle one of the main purposes of a constitution and determining what kind of organization you're going to be, right? Whether, how you're going to operate, is that when it's time to settle disputes, like one country trying to settle disputes with the other country, how does the Commonwealth resolve disputes? And she said, there are no disputes in the Commonwealth because the Queen is sovereign. So I said, okay, so does that mean that if the Queen is sovereign, that means, she said it's a one-stop shop. She makes the final decision and everybody follows the rules. I was like, wow, that's different.
Yeah, well, this is the first time their kingdom has had this many different types of subjects, and it looks like their monarchy cannot handle representing all of these different subjects properly.
They can't.
And therein lies a big issue. And what's going on with Harry and Meghan is that is a small. You can only imagine what's going on in Commonwealth countries.
In Commonwealth countries, and then they have to settle disputes, and they can't settle the disputes equally or whatever, because the Queen has to make a decision, and when she makes a decision, it's final. And I pointed out, I said that could be a problem for some people. That could, and that could create some problems. And it looks like it has created problems because she has a dispute within her own family and cannot solve it. Being a sovereign and making a sovereign decision and trying to say, I made my decision and it's final. That isn't going to work.
No.
You know, because human beings are complicated people. Whether it's in your family or whether it's throughout the world, whether it's internationally.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, and it's about effective communication and really concentrating on making sure that everybody gets justice. But, you know, apparently I don't think the Queen is into that. It's her way or the highway.
There you go.
All right.
And which is hence how the United States of America was born.
Exactly. Thank God.
Yeah, amen. This
You know?
is why we're back here.
Yeah.
You know, we one of the things that we do in the morning is we definitely watch KTLA. That's our thing, you know, because.
Well, before you go for that, you know, I just before you go into watching KTLA, hold that thought for a second, because what I wanted to say about, you know, the Queen trying to fit in as a sovereign in a modern world that's communicating through social media, it's going to be difficult because everybody there's just too many people, you know, and this is the thing, the hypocrisy of the British monarchy is that they try to operate as if they are a democracy and you have free speech, but apparently when you apply democracy to their system of government, the monarchy, it doesn't work.
To give you an example, here's how it falls down to the Commonwealth. We just heard last week that in Parliament, the Speaker of the House doesn't want anyone filming anything. No cameras. They want to go silent inside Parliament. The place in which the people send these votes.
To make decisions for them.
To make decisions for them. They want to silence that decision-making process and just give you the result.
Which is a problem.
Which is a problem because you have a leader in the Bahamas who is, I would say he's close to 85% unpopular.
Yeah.
And he knows it. He's scrambling, saying things just to kind of like
try to salvage his image.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. He wasn't the one for the job. He never learned to adapt to it. He hasn't accomplished anything.
Yeah, as a result of not knowing how to adapt to your job.
So he utilizes the same type of rule that the Queen does, and he doesn't have the right to do so.
Exactly.
But within this Commonwealth language, it's accepted or ignored.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a problem.
It is a problem.
This is a greater problem that extends, you know, you can't eat your young in public.
You can't. You know, it doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good.
And the Queen looks like she's eating her young in public. And
there's no reason to stress out a new baby, a new family with a child.
I know. And the child is under a year old, you know?
There's no need for all of this.
There's no need to stress.
Even if there was a problem, even if there was an issue, it could be delayed to deal with it at a later date.
Yeah.
But that's you know, when it gets into improper timing, that's when people are throwing their weight around improperly.
But also too, Geoff, you know, all of this goes back to what Baroness Scotland told me, right? And she said, basically, the British Constitution is the Magna Carta that was written in the 1200. What was it?
Something like that.
It was like written
12
in
or 15, something like that.
It's 12. No, it's the 1200. It's a, you know, it was drawn up by King John in the Middle Ages, right? Yeah. So, how can you? I mean, how can you adopt a medieval constitution to a 21st century world?
You can't.
No, it makes no sense. You know, and
It's not
that's
gonna work.
And that's all that, you know, the people are trying to tell her. They're trying to give her feedback to let her know.
Well, let's just say.
But she's sovereign, so she's gonna ignore it
Until it's too late.
Until it's too late, yeah. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. You know, every country now is being able to see everything being played out, and then they can make their own decision on how they want to move forward. You want to continue to play with this monarchy, or you want to continue to push your independence, which you asked the Queen for independence, so start acting like you're independent. You know,
that's to those Commonwealth countries.
The
right?
Commonwealth countries. If you asked for independence, you need to start acting like you want to be independent.
And stop begging for money, Bahamas.
Yeah, you know, exactly.
To that prime minister, because that doesn't make any kind of sense at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, how about the prime minister? How about Dr. Minnis talking about that? He was stuck in Brussels, you know, on the delegation.
Yeah, he couldn't access any money from his government account to pay for something. He's Menace the Menace.
Yeah.
You know, just.
And he said that he got so frustrated, he was willing to go call Jamaica, to go borrow money from Jamaica.
We put the local news broadcast up on our friends at Geoff Gena's site.
Yeah.
And
so you can see how ridiculous he looks.
He's getting emotional. When you start yelling at the podium, it just there's only like 4 or 5 reporters. It's not like a president of the United States situation. It's only like 4 or 5 reporters. I ain't knowing. It's only like out of the 4 or 5 reporters, only 2 of them that got a couple of good questions.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're young, they're puppy reporters.
Yeah, it's not like a stressful situation.
All the veteran reporters he has is in Bahamas Information Services, and he doesn't utilize them apparently.
No, because he's got a lamo in there that taken off the street and given a good job and car and all this kind of stuff, and is totally unqualified for the position. It's like many other people in the
cronyism.
Bahamas.
It's just straight up cronyism
and nepotism, and it gets the country nowhere, and it's so vast.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to watch it happen when you know that they could do so much better.
Yeah, they're supposed to. It's the 21st century. You don't have a choice. You have to strive for best.
Yeah.
You better live your best life now.
Exactly, and when your people are screaming at you, saying that they're starving.
Yeah.
They're eating noodles every day.
Yeah.
And we're talking about ramen noodles. Ramen noodles, that come in the package, the little Japanese noodles that come in the package that you could buy $3 for $1.
Yeah, $3 for $1 down there.
That's what people are feeding their families with, because that's all they could afford. And corned beef in the can, it's cheaper over there in the Bahamas than it is here.
Yeah, strange horse meat.
Strange horse meat from Brazil.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you can get past horse meat, you get past strange.
Exactly.
It was a difficult life. You and I, we sit here, we talk about how the vast difference, and it's not like it should have been that difficult. It should not have been that difficult to live on an island. There are some things that you do not have that you have on the mainland, and that you go without. But no, when it costs so much and you get so little back, the whole idea of tax has to come with concessions, and when concessions don't come with that high tax, that's a problem. We got high crime, high unemployment. The spirit of the country is just
down in the dumps.
It's just no artistic expression.
Nothing.
They got
except for Junkanoo. Junkanoo's an artist, and the Junkanooers are complaining now that they need a little bit more attention.
They have 3 TV stations down there.
Yeah.
3 different TV stations, 1 government owned, and they are all lousy.
Yeah.
I have never seen incompetence with a paycheck given to so many to do so few, so little. It's unreal.
Remember, we've been listening to, the Guardian Radio, right? We've been listening to it every so often to check in and see what's going on down there.
Yeah, watch them pretend that the problems are not as bad as they really are.
Yeah, and even the signal that they send out through their app, it's overmodulated. Like you could hear the levels hitting up against whatever ceiling it's hitting up against. How come nobody notices that and just turn the level down to an appropriate level? It's too much of that.
Hey, we give a shout out to Nahaja for really, we see you bending. We see you trying to make this stuff work.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
we appreciate the efforts.
Yeah, she's come along quite well. We have to give it to her. She's learned the job, and people trust her. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. You
But
found
like
your niche.
Yeah, but here, we talk about the life here,
Mm-hmm.
and just like this is a beautiful Saturday that we're just sitting here talking, early evening with supper time, and just a relaxed nature and having a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I have my cup of tea.
And this is something that we couldn't enjoy, that you should be able to enjoy in the Bahamas, and you couldn't enjoy. The current government administration created a situation where
it was oppressive. It was the taxes were just oppressive.
Disgusted.
And just
people were just awful. And people, directors of all these different, we call them the skippers, in life there, Gilligan's Island is the world.
You remember that time we were in, Western Union, and the guy that was standing at the window, I guess receiving some money, the woman asked him, so what's your occupation? He says, I's a director. Exactly. And we were sitting there laughing. Since when is being a director an occupation? It's a title, isn't it?
So, back to what I was saying. So, life is about Gilligan.
Unless you're in Hollywood. Unless you're Hollywood, director is an occupation.
Something.
Yeah.
The population of the world is Gilligan's Island, okay? So, the Howells are at the top, okay? Then you have your middlings, your skippers, and those are your directors. Those are not your Hollywood directors. Those are your
hey Gilligan, hey there, little buddy.
Responsible for the hole in the boat. You have the professor. Those are your smart people in society. You have your Gilligans. Those are the people who build society.
Okay, you got Ginger. Your movie star.
Yeah, she's gonna cost you money. and Marianne,
your hometown girl.
Hometown girl. There you go. And all of this is, we all fall into these particular niches, these categories that one or more times in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, you come in, you see Menace, this prime minister over in the Bahamas is a skipper.
Mm-hmm.
A hole in a boat. He is responsible. He has not repaired the hole that was there. He has made the hole bigger. You understand?
Exactly.
And this guy, he wants the right to make it bigger. And he wants you to give him a second term so he can then maybe decide to make it smaller.
I don't think the skipper knew anything about the Titanic.
No.
Hole in the boat is just not.
And I think this skipper,
it's not a good investment.
If he can't do it within this time, we can't see the hole getting closed. He obviously can't do it.
He can't close the hole.
He can't close the hole in the time allotted.
The time allotted. That's right.
That's right. So
there's no glue. There's no Gorilla Glue on the island.
So as they say, he must pack up his bag and carry his ass because he is no longer wanted or needed. And just so he need to hear this from me to you.
Exactly. Carry your Georgie bundle.
Yeah, you're a fuck up.
That's right.
You really are awful.
Everything you own is in like a handkerchief. Just tie it to a stick and just
exactly.
Kick rocks.
And scruffy.
Scruffy.
Yeah, scruffaluffagus.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
You got so many young kids, and they really need to feel the urge and the passion to want to learn.
Yeah.
You got a government administration that makes it unpalatable. This fighting in the schools, and the government
killing in schools, Jeff.
In schools.
There's kids that are actually in prison because they're killing each other.
Because they are defending. It's ridiculous.
They're killing each
and
other.
And what are they going to do when they come out of school? It's like 6,000 kids every
every
year.
single year.
Yeah, they come
graduating.
out with more unemployment, and they can't build enough mega resorts to create space cleaner positions, lousy positions that you can't. You know,
You can't build a family on a space cleaner position.
Owning anything has become something of the past down in that place.
Obsolete.
It's obsolete. Yeah. They won't even have a lottery for the citizens.
Yeah, the citizens are calling for a national lottery, and they don't want to do that. And then the price of land has gone up. You know, so people are complaining that they can't buy a home. You know, to have a establishment for their family. You know, a foundation, for their family. And see, this is what the problem is, right, Geoff? With all of that, the wealth of a nation, and you know this already. The wealth of a nation depends upon how many people you can give them the opportunity to own their own home. The more people in your country that own their own property, and they're I guess they have access to education and food and and all the basics. That is what determines the wealth of your country. But if you as a leader of a country don't allow your citizens to be able to buy property and build and stuff, then you are creating you're making your country an impoverished nation.
This is another reason why the U.S. is the greatest country in the world, and it's because of this.
Because of the opportunities.
It knows that it is in its best interest that the citizens succeed, and as long as they do it legally,
exactly.
And it is important that citizens succeed.
That's right.
So that because the whole idea of being an American is to celebrate each other's achievement, so that it inspires you, so that you do something, and because that's a major thing about here.
You do that to help somebody else up.
We celebrate in sports. It's a celebration, and see that's a thing that is not talked about. That's hidden within the code of the American way, which is the celebratory freedom of your life in this land of the free and of the brave and
land of opportunity.
Land of opportunity. And this is what this is about. And
this is the country that doesn't tolerate.
Before you get to that, this is one that celebrates that, and it's very important that all these different people are able to celebrate, and that's this, and it's so strong, especially when you've come from a country where it is not. And
where the hypocrisy is that they're trying to say that they are a democratic nation, but they don't practice democratic principles.
Well, what happens is it goes back from one sector to the next, one set of friends to the next set of friends in the leadership. The perfect example: the last two prime ministers before this one were in a law firm, and they were not on the same political party. So you know the intermingling of the few that doesn't spread to the many is the problem in the Bahamas, and the opposite is the U.S., where it is to flow. The more that it flows, we all benefit. We all, and you'd be amazed, that we do celebrate other people's success, and it does spur you on.
And see, there's another thing too that I was trying to get back. This is what I noticed: what this country does not tolerate, the United States does not tolerate, is communism and oppression. Because if you don't let your people grow, how do you expect them to continue to
how does the country expect to get better? To
get better and to improve.
The whole idea of being on this plane is to get better. Whatever you do.
To pursue life, liberty, and happiness.
And happiness.
That's what this is all about. All men are born free.
Right. Well, that's the USA.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. It needs to be reminded that we have these inalienable rights, and that we should celebrate them. Hence Independence Day, President's Day, and
exactly. exactly.
certain days, but just so we know how this goes.
And to be grateful that you have this freedom.
There are places in this world that are ridiculous, and they're getting more and more ridiculous because there's more and more people, and they're afraid that their power is going to be lost.
And see, what they don't understand is the basic principle, the basic universal principle that the opposite of trust is control. If you're in a situation, if you're in a country where they're trying to control you all the time, that means that the leader and the government does not trust its people. And the opposite of trust is control. So it appears on the surface to me that the United States trusts its citizens, trusts its people. As much as the law can allow, but other countries, I don't see them doing that. I see a lot of countries trying to control information, and social media is a powerful tool to show the entire world who is trusting and who is trying to control. And I don't know. I try to shy away from places that try to control you because they don't understand.
Run the other way. You end up in a place where all of a sudden the coronavirus is all around you.
You know what I'm saying?
And no one's telling you the truth.
No one's and then the coronavirus is showing up in places where it's unlikely. Like, how the hell did they get in Iran? You know what I mean?
Well, see, now we're coming to realize exactly, this world is not as big as you think it is.
Oh, shit. Geoff, no. Guess what? You remember when we talked about this before? You know how coronavirus got into Iran? Because Iran is allies with China.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Oh, my gosh. So now we're going to probably find out all of the countries who are allies.
We know that Bahamas is allies with China under menace.
Yeah, the prime minister came out and he said that.
He said that before his meeting with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
He said that. And he said that after his meeting.
Yeah, after his meeting.
With President Trump, when he announced.
And supposedly told that to President Trump.
Yeah.
So, that was another question to me because there's a lot of Chinese workers. And matter of fact, there's supposed to be some people who are trapped in China who are supposed to come back to the Bahamas to finish
and
being
some
project managers, which,
but, yeah.
Jobs that should go to Bahamians. There's some Chinese over there stuck due to the virus.
But there are Chinese that are also stuck in the Bahamas as well. And they're upset that they can't go home and access funds or whatever it is that they need, to live in the Bahamas. Or they can't finish their projects because diplomatic relations have shut down between the two countries. So it's a messy place. The world's a messy place.
Exactly, but we did talk about the impeachment trial, and everything was kind of like hot. So now you're going to hear all of that, and until next time.
No, you guys are going to hear that.
All of that right now.
Right now, okay.